Hey everybody, welcome to Lightning Day at the MicroStrategy Conference. I'm glad they're saving the best for last. As Stefan said, today's going to be an awesome day. There's a bunch of amazing speakers, and my goal with kickstarting this day is to get everyone's brains warmed up and to give everybody a little bit of an introduction to the Lightning Network, dig a little deeper than people did yesterday, and I hope you walk away from my presentation with a preliminary understanding of why Lightning really matters. First, a little bit about my company, River. I started River 4 years ago with the goal of building world-class Bitcoin financial products to accelerate the adoption of Bitcoin. At River, our mission is to champion an honest and robust financial system through the use of Bitcoin, which we deeply believe is the world's only incorruptible digital money. At River, we serve both consumers and businesses and enterprises. We have excellent brokerage, secure custody, and hosted Bitcoin mining services. We have a best-in-class private client team that serves our high-net-worth customers and enterprise customers. And we also have a really cool Lightning Network infrastructure business that serves enterprises and helps them power any applications that they're building on the Lightning Network. We serve companies both small and large, from small fintech apps looking to help their users transact securely over Lightning, to nation states like El Salvador, who were honored to help serve their citizens through their nationwide app called Chivo, which is an app that everybody in El Salvador can use to transact Bitcoin and dollars and use the Lightning Network. And we're very proud to be powering that. You can find us at river.com if you're interested in learning more. So, today I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to what the Lightning Network is, digging a little deeper. Talk about what the global implications of the Lightning Network are, and then to wrap it up, discuss a little bit about what this means for your company. First, a little pop quiz. How much value do you think was settled on the Bitcoin blockchain in 2022? And we're going to do hands here. Raise your hand if you think it was A, $798 billion. Raise your hand if you think it was B, $7.6 trillion. Okay, a few hands. C, $14.9 trillion. Okay, and D, $38.8 trillion. All right. The answer is D, $38.8 trillion. It's a huge number. Now, this is a little bit of a trick question, because if you answered C, you're also technically right. With the way we do accounting in Bitcoin and the way Bitcoin transactions work, when you send a Bitcoin transaction, you're sending the funds to your recipient, but you're also sending some Bitcoin back to yourself. When you look at the data on the Bitcoin blockchain, you actually don't always know which part of the transactions were that change back to you, but you can do estimates. And when you use a certain heuristic, you can estimate that actually all of this $38.8 trillion in Bitcoin moved wasn't all going to another destination. Some of it was this change that came back to you. And so we can estimate maybe it's somewhere between 14.9 to 40 trillion that was settled. But nonetheless, the order of magnitude is about the same. And what this breaks down to is about $1,200 a second, $4.3 million per hour, or $100 billion a day. Now, Fedwire in 2022, to put this in perspective, processed $4.2 trillion a day of value. Bitcoin is processing about $100 billion a day. So it's about 40 times less than Fedwire. This is a chart showing you the trajectory of the amount of Bitcoin settled on the Bitcoin network every year, the amount of value. The bars represent the dollar value of Bitcoin settled on the Bitcoin blockchain every year, with the gold bars showing the estimated value if we're subtracting change, and the black bar showing you the full number. The growth rate has been insane. The bars from just 5 to 6 years ago are basically invisible. But we have a problem. Although the Bitcoin blockchain has settled a tremendous amount of value, and that number continues to grow, we've hit a limit on another metric. And we've hit a limit on the number of transactions that can be sent on the Bitcoin blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain is only capable of processing about 7 transactions per second. And this is where the Lightning Network comes in. If Bitcoin is to be a global currency that anyone in the world can use to transact and engage in commerce, and it's truly going to power the next generation of commerce on the internet, 7 transactions per second just isn't going to cut it. Here's a graphic that Blockstream put together, which I think does a really great job at highlighting the huge win that the Lightning Network gives us. This graphic shows the difference in transaction throughputs between Lightning, the Lightning Network, and other blockchains you might have heard of and other payment networks I'm sure you've heard of. On the right, you can see the Ethereum transaction throughput. It's about 15 transactions per second. You've probably heard of Ethereum, which is another blockchain. Solana, which is a blockchain branded as being very high throughput, very generously has a 65,000 transaction per second throughput. Now, it's probably much lower than that in practice. We see it break at much lower transaction speeds. And the real-world transaction throughputs we're seeing at Visa and PayPal are 24,000 transactions a second for Visa, about 200 transactions per second for PayPal. Way lower than what the Lightning Network is capable of. So the Lightning Network is certainly capable of powering a global payment system for the world. And it's much better than any other blockchain we're seeing out there. So how does it do this? If the Bitcoin blockchain is limited to 7 transactions per second, how can the Lightning Network process 40 million transactions per second? What is going on here? What's this magic? So I want to try and break down for you I want to try and give you a sort of tangible understanding of actually what's going on in the Lightning Network. What software is running? Where is it running? How is it working? And how does it interact with the Bitcoin blockchain? We're not going to go too detailed here. There's lots of incredible resources online that can teach you what you want to know. But as Michael mentioned yesterday, we call a Lightning Network a layer 2. Well, why is it called a layer 2? Well, that's because there's a layer 1. And the layer 1 is that Bitcoin blockchain. It's that slow-moving, 7 transactions per second ledger that is replicated worldwide. The important thing about the Bitcoin blockchain is that it's easily downloaded and verified by anyone in the world. If Bitcoin is to remain this open and decentralized network, thousands or millions of people all over the world need to be able to easily download and verify this data. So if the transaction rate of the Bitcoin blockchain and the number of transactions that can get added to this ledger is too large, this data set, this ledger, becomes intractable. And then the Bitcoin network loses its decentralization and its value. So we have to get clever here. We have this constraint at the layer 1 so that we can remain decentralized. So how does Lightning work? What does it do? How does it interact with the Bitcoin blockchain in the layer 1? So the Lightning Network is a collection of really 2 components. There are Lightning nodes, and a node is really just a software program running on a server or a phone or some computer. And this software program speaks the Lightning protocol. And Lightning nodes can talk to each other. And they connect to each other through something called Lightning channels. And we call these channels payment channels, because these are the channels through which money transfers on the Lightning Network. When one node wants to be able to pay another node, they open a channel with a special transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain. And once that channel is open, value can transfer back and forth between those nodes an infinite amount of times. Now, there are nuances here in how much value can be transferred and, depending on how much Bitcoin was put into that channel when it was open, but we won't get into all of that. Those are sort of details. But the important thing to understand is, with one Bitcoin transaction, we've opened a payment channel through which an infinite number of transactions can happen back and forth. And none of those transactions, after the initial channel opening, touch the Bitcoin blockchain. And these transactions are facilitated by sharing little bits of cryptographic information such that either of those nodes at any point in time can get the Bitcoin that they deserve. Nobody can cheat each other. It's a very clever protocol. Now, what's really cool here is that I don't need a channel. If I'm a node in the Lightning Network, I don't need a channel with every node I want to pay. I can actually pay through my neighbor. And to illustrate that, I have a little animation here of an example of a payment going through the Lightning Network through a number of different intermediary nodes and channels. And this is why the Lightning Network is really cool and special. With just by spinning up a new node and connecting one channel to an already connected node, I can transact through with anyone on the Lightning Network. Now, who's running a node? Well, nodes are often run by businesses, but they can also be run by individuals. Nodes can be run by merchants, Bitcoin exchanges, or other economic actors that want to be able to transact on this network. Here's a really cool visualization done by this Twitter user, PieMoment, illustrating the Lightning Network at some point last year. The blue dots are what we call edge nodes. These are nodes that are just connected with maybe one channel to some bigger nodes on the Lightning Network that actually are much better connected. The orange are these well-connected hub nodes. We call these routing nodes. These are nodes that are connected to lots of different peers and are processing lots of transactions being routed through them. At River, we run some of the largest nodes on the Lightning Network. Some of the largest and some of the oldest. The other large nodes in the network include wallets, exchanges, and other players offering various services where transacting on Lightning is core to what they're doing. We have a really in-depth research report on the Lightning Network. You can find it on our website. We shared a lot of the proprietary data that we have from our own Lightning nodes, seeing the volumes, the routing fees, and the other behaviors that we're observing in the network. The interesting thing about Lightning, in contrast to the Bitcoin blockchain, is the data in the Lightning Network is actually not visible by everybody. Every different node has their own unique view of the network. Because when you're transacting on the Lightning Network, you're just transacting with your peers, and the only people seeing these transactions are the nodes on that path. So what's really cool, though, is because the community is so collaborative, people love to share data. Kevin Rook, who has an awesome Lightning podcast, puts together a lot of interesting data sets and charts and shares these often on Twitter. And I'm just highlighting a few of them here to give you an insight into who are the types of players on the Lightning Network? What are they doing? How are they using it? And what are the types of numbers we're seeing? The chart on the top left is charting a metric that we call Lightning capacity. Lightning capacity is the number of Bitcoin that's locked in these payment channels that I was telling you about. The more Bitcoin in payment channels, the bigger the network is getting. The bar charts here are representing app usage across various apps built on the Lightning Network. Things like Wallet of Satoshi, which is a very popular Lightning wallet. RoboSats, which is a peer-to-peer trading app. Zaps on Nostr, which Michael in his awesome keynote yesterday taught you all about. A decentralized social media protocol where you can tip your friends. Gaming, Thunder Games. Gaming is huge for Lightning. Lightning is, and the micropayments that Lightning unlocks, is truly changing the gaming landscape. All of these charts are up and to the right. This is a common trend in Lightning. Not only are the metrics up and to the right, the number of builders in the Lightning Network is also up and to the right. There's a rich and quickly growing ecosystem of companies building for Lightning. Everything from infrastructure, companies like Voltage, like River, awesome technology companies like Lightning Labs. You'll hear from Elizabeth next. They build the most popular Lightning node implementation in the world. to big firms like Square and Cash App, Block and Cash App, putting Lightning into the hands of millions and millions of people. To the most old school companies you can think of, like McDonald's. I kid you not, if you go to El Salvador and you go to the McDonald's in San Salvador, you can buy a McFlurry with the Lightning Network. Okay, so what are the global implications of this thing? My favorite analogy for Lightning, and you'll hear lots of analogies about the Lightning Network, and they're all important, and they'll all help you triangulate your own understanding of this thing. But my favorite analogy is that Lightning is the TCP/IP for money. For those of you who aren't technical, TCP/IP is the core internet protocol. It is how computers find and talk to each other on the internet. It's how computers exchange information on the internet. What TCP/IP did for information, the Lightning Network is doing for money. And this has some very important qualities that stand in stark contrast to the payment systems that we interact with today. One, it's global. Your customers and your workers today are now global. They're no longer in just one jurisdiction where one payment system works for everything. It's 24/7. It operates on internet hours. Blockbuster was open 9 to 8 p.m. Netflix doesn't have hours. When the internet was first started, there were these error codes that were formalized for when you try to access something on the internet. If something goes wrong, you get an error. You've probably heard of error code 404, when you try to access a web page that doesn't exist. Well, one of the error codes that was reserved early on was 402, an error code that never really got used. Error code 402 was reserved for trying to access a resource on the internet where payment was required. Now, nobody could ever really take advantage of that built-in aspect of internet protocols because there was no internet-native payment system. Well, that's changed. And I think we're going to start seeing a world where you can easily pay for resources on the internet 24/7. Natively on the internet. It's cheap. Microtransactions are now feasible. Microtransactions aren't going to transform every industry, but we're seeing huge traction in places like content creation and gaming. It's seamless. Unlike existing financial rails, you don't have to sign up for the Lightning Network. It just works. You can just start using it. For those of you who build consumer apps, understanding friction reduction and the value that adds to your business, I think you probably understand the value that this gives you. It's programmatic. This is computer native money. And in a world of increasing automation and AI, it's really important that our tools can start to access money natively and directly. Imagine a future where as your business grows and is continually automated and amplified through various AI tooling, these tools get smarter and smarter. You start giving it access to more and more information. But what if you started giving it access to the Lightning Network, to a global payment network, and you were teaching this thing how to optimize revenues? What if these artificial intelligences started almost operating as economic actors and started transacting with each other? Will we see some machine-to-machine economy develop? I don't know. And it's permissionless. Your developers can just start building on it. They don't need to sit in 10 different meetings with banking partners. All the documentation is online. It's all up and running. They can just start doing. One of my favorite examples of the permissionless innovation that Lightning unlocks is the Lightning address. Now, there was an analogy you heard yesterday that Lightning is like email for money, and I think that's a great analogy. But actually, the Lightning protocol itself is a little bit technical. It's like TCP/IP. We don't use TCP/IP in our daily life. We don't think about it like that. We don't think we're using that when we use the internet. We use an internet browser that makes it easy for us to talk to other computers on the internet. Well, someone, who was a developer saw the Lightning Network, saw the power of it, and was like, well, you know what? Humans don't really want to see all these little details. What if I could build something on top of the Lightning Network so that people could just send money to email addresses via Lightning? And the Lightning address was born. And that's this protocol built on top of the Lightning Network so that anyone can just send Lightning payments to someone's email. And if they've set up or connected their email address to this protocol, it just works. And so here's a screenshot from one of Michael Saylor's tweets showing an example of people just sending him sats on the internet. It's pretty amazing. There's other cool projects being worked on. There are people working on bringing other assets to the Lightning Network, like US dollars. I won't get into how this works. It's still in its early phase, but it's a really cool project that's happening that Lightning Labs is leading up. Imagine a world where Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal are all on the Lightning Network, and every payment app in the United States or in the world is capable of paying each other. Now, that's cool if it's in Bitcoin. I mean, if you like Bitcoin, that's great. But not everyone yet has bought into Bitcoin. Not yet. They will be, but not just yet. Well, what if they could also just transact in dollars with each other via the Lightning Network? And I just want to shout out Cash App here. They're really pushing things forward. They've brought Lightning and Bitcoin into the hands of millions of people that would have never had access to it before. What if you're a merchant? Getting paid over the internet can be a pretty messy experience with credit cards. High processing fees. But with Lightning, there's no credit card fees. You have to worry a lot about payments fraud, stolen credit cards, people trying to, there's so many stolen credit card credentials out there. But with the Lightning Network, these payments are irreversible. You also don't have to worry about PII. When somebody makes a Lightning payment with you, you don't have this toxic waste of data to worry about. And again, there are cool projects working to help bring US dollars native to the Lightning Network. Now, Lightning isn't all perfect. This is an early protocol. We're still in the early days. It's not 100% reliable yet. Sometimes when you try and pay to the edge of the network, if you remember that graphic that I showed earlier, sometimes not all of those edge nodes are very well connected. Now, the good news is that paying to the most popular destinations works very seamlessly these days. And the reliability is increasing very quickly. So these are all problems that are very quickly being solved. The network effect is still in its early stages. While the growth rate is very quick, and it's important to skate to where the puck is going, the entire world is not using the Lightning Network yet. And it's Bitcoin only for now. And in my opinion, Bitcoin is on a trajectory to be the world's reserve currency. It's on a trajectory to be the currency that everyone uses on the internet. And it's only a matter of time until the critical mass of people who want Bitcoin will be too big to ignore. So what does this mean for your company? Well, I can't tell you exactly what this means for each and every one of your businesses. You know your businesses way better than I do. But I want to put you in the right frame of mind. This is going to lead to new and improved business models, the same way that the internet led to new and improved business models for the industries that you work in. It's like TCP/IP for money. I really like this newspaper clipping from the 90s. It's a Q&A about the internet. And one of the questions on here is, do I need the internet? And the answer is probably not. For most people, the internet is no more than a toy. But it's rapidly growing in popularity. And even now, it's a great way to exchange messages long distances cheaply. I like the last part of that. It's a great way to exchange messages long distances cheaply. That's what the internet is really doing for us. That was the frame of thinking back then, because a long distance call was expensive, and the internet made it easy to send information long distances. But it showed a total lack of understanding of what the real value of the internet was. So when we think about sort of when you learn about Lightning for the first time, your conception is, oh, well, this helps me send money cheaply. Well, there's a much bigger vision here. This is going to lead to way bigger things than that. There's other questions asked in this article, like, how do I get the internet? What does it cost? What can I do? Is it complicated? All very natural questions to ask, and the exact same types of questions that people ask about the Lightning Network. I love this because it sort of mirrors the experience that people are having today with Bitcoin and Lightning. So think about that, and think about that as you think about what this means for your business. You didn't want to be late to the internet, and you certainly don't want to be late to the internet of money. So with that, I will conclude that Lightning matters. And I think you're going to walk away agreeing with this by the end of today. Thank you.